Have you ever watched a movie and felt like the universe just twisted in on itself? Like what you thought was real suddenly might not be. That's exactly what director James Ward Bierkett does in the movie Coherence, one of the most mind-bending explorations of parallel realities in modern science fiction. But what exactly is the parallel worlds theory behind this film? And how does it compare to other multiverse ideas we've seen in sci-fi? Welcome to the Sci-Fi Sophist. My name is Bill, and I'm a lifelong science fiction fanboy since I was a small child in the 80s. Today, we're talking about the 2013 small-budget, independent psychological thriller, Coherence. It features one of my all-time favorite usages of the multiverse theory. Coherence isn't your typical sci-fi blockbuster. There's no CGI spaceship, no lasers, no explosions. Instead, it's an intimate story that takes place during a dinner party that goes very wrong. On the night a mysterious comet passes overhead, 8 friends gather for a meal. But as the night unfolds, strange phenomena begin to occur. Lights flicker, cell phones go dead, and most intriguingly, alternate versions of themselves appear. So before we dig into the film, let's unpack the idea of parallel worlds, sometimes called the multiverse. In theoretical physics, one interpretation of quantum mechanics, the many worlds interpretation, suggests that with every possible outcome of a quantum event, the universe splits into different branches. Each branch continues simultaneously, but in its own reality. So if you flip a coin, and it could go heads or tails. In one universe, it goes heads, in another, it goes tails. Both outcomes exist, just in separate parallel timelines. It's a controversial idea, and not everyone agrees that it's physically real, but it's a powerful tool for storytelling. In Coherence, Bierkett takes this theory and pushes it into an intimate setting. A house, 8 friends, and one strange night. The comet becomes the catalyst, the event that collapses barriers between multiple versions of the same reality. Instead of one timeline, the film suggests that there are many versions of the evening, each slightly different. The characters accidentally cross into them. Here's where it gets interesting. The people in the house encounter versions of themselves, but these aren't exact replicas. In one reality, someone might be confident, in another, shy. One group might have made a different choice earlier in the night, leading to a slightly changed outcome. The film's tension comes from characters trying to find a version of reality that works for them, a house where they are safe, where relationships are fixed, where nothing is wrong. The comet doesn't just pass, it interferes. Lights flicker, cell phones break, and suddenly barriers between worlds collapse. This is a common trope in sci-fi. A cosmic event unlocks what should be impossible. Think of Donnie Darko and the tangential universes, or The Mist with its alternate dimension. Cosmic or unexplained scientific events often serve as the gateway in parallel universe stories. The idea behind Coherence is closest to the many worlds interpretation, a scientific proposal that all possible outcomes of quantum events actually occur in different universes. But unlike the dry diagrams of physics textbooks, Coherence dramatizes the emotional and psychological weight of encountering yourself, not just the theoretical physics. In Back to the Future Part 2, Marty changes past events and suddenly returns to an altered present. The town looks different, characters have changed. That's a timeline alteration model, one universe altered by changes to history. Coherence is similar in that the timeline branches, but it doesn't focus on a fixed change. It suggests simultaneous realities that coexist and overlap fleetingly. In DC's Crisis on Infinite Earths and its subsequent multiverse storylines, we see multiple Earths, Earth 1, Earth 2, etc. Each has unique versions of familiar characters. This is similar to what Coherence presents, alternate versions of the same people based on different choices and circumstances. However, superhero multiverses tend to be big, flashy, and structured. Coherence is gritty, grounded, and intimate. The multiverse isn't a comic book map, but something creeping into a house party. Doctor Strange takes multiverse visuals to extremes. Whole universes collapsing, merging, and exploding. While visually thrilling, it treats the multiverse like a cosmic stage. Coherence has none of that scale. The multiverse here is quiet, unsettling, and small scale, a reminder that even in our own world, alternate versions might exist without the fireworks. One of my favorite shows as a kid was Sliders. In Sliders, characters intentionally jump between alternate Earths. In Coherence, the crossing is accidental and opaque. There's no clear mechanism or control. This raises one of the film's core questions. Without understanding the mechanism, how do you choose which world you're in? Or if you're even in the reality you want? Here's where Coherence gets psychological. These aren't just parallel timelines, they're parallel lives. Every choice a character made earlier that night creates a ripple, a different decision, a different outcome. And when characters encounter alternate versions of themselves, it forces a confrontation with, who am I? Who could I have been? That's a uniquely human twist on multiverse theory. In a lot of science fiction, alternate universes are visual spectacles or plot devices. Here, they're psychological mirrors. By the end of the movie, the question isn't just what happened, but what does it matter? If every version of you exists somewhere, then what makes your version real? Many interpretations suggest that the characters are trying to settle in a world that feels best. But are they making real choices, or are they just shifting between versions until they find one that suits them? Let's be clear. Coherence isn't a documentary, and it takes creative liberties. Real parallel universe theories, like the many worlds interpretation, are mathematical frameworks. They don't imply you can suddenly walk into another version of your living room. What the film does is take a scientific idea and use it as a metaphor, a dramatic device to explore identity, choice, and consequence. One of the most fascinating things about Coherence is how it refuses to explain itself. We never get a clear how, and that's intentional. The ambiguity creates tension, nudging the audience to fill in gaps for themselves. This uncertainty is common in quantum theory. The more we learn, the more we realize we don't know. So when you compare Coherence to other multiverse portrayals, Doctor Strange shows the multiverse as an epic cyclic cosmos. DC Comics uses it as a narrative web of alternate Earths. Sliders treats it like destinations on a map. But Coherence brings it down to the human level. It's about how different choices create different versions of our lives and what happens when those versions coexist. Here's what Coherence does that few films dare. It uses the multiverse not as a spectacle, but as a mirror. It prioritizes psychological tension over visual effects. It embraces uncertainty, leaving the audience unsettled, not because things are flashy, but because they're possible. And that's the real power of the parallel worlds theory in this film. Coherence might not give us neat answers, but it asks questions worth pondering. If infinite versions of ourselves exist, which one are we living? And what does that mean if we could cross paths with them? Let me know in the comments below, what is your take on the multiverse theory? And is there one that is a favorite for you? Thanks for watching, guys. Please hit like and subscribe so you don't miss my next video. Take care.